When you look something up, that's artificial intelligence working in real time to help you find something. So this idea that we need to be on ChatGPT, that we need to be on all these other mediums that create these fake, I understand that people feel that fantasy is better than reality in many cases, but you know what else fantasy does? It creates narratives that aren't real, and that gets people in a lot of trouble and in a lot of danger. Now, thankfully, the current stage that AI is at, you can pretty much tell when you're being put on. It looks fake. It sounds fake. It is fake.
And some of these people, I don't know. I think it's going to get harder and harder to tell. And I think that's the real problem, is that we can't trust that at all.
Which is exactly why this was, of course, anytime, the one thing we've learned, and this is another thing about Nick Shirley that I just want to put out there for you guys. Anytime somebody appears out of nowhere and all of a sudden has a substantially large reach and platform, it's because they're being boosted. And when something like this pops up today, it's because it's being boosted because there's a propaganda narrative that's at play here. This is the not so real celebration of the removal of Maduro from Caracas earlier today.
El pueblo finalmente está libre. El pueblo llora por su libertad. Gracias a los Estados Unidos por liberarnos. Y viva la libertad. Oye, el dictador cayó. Finalmente. Estamos libres, estamos libres. ¡Viva Venezuela libre! ¡Gracias, Dios! ¡Gracias! ¡Oye! El dictador cayó finalmente. Granadito, hermano, esto es real. Estamos libres. Mira, mira cómo está la gente. ¡Viva Venezuela libre! Gracias a Dios, esto es para todos los que aguantaron, se logró.
You know, the funny thing about these images is that the last two you can kind of potentially believe is real. It is too obvious that this is fake. This particular
she looks exactly the same as the woman in the very beginning.
Correct. They didn't think this through too clearly, did they?
Well, it's bad. So guys, yes, this is definitely AI, and this is the kind of propaganda, but what concerns me is it is going to get better. Like over time, so where the propaganda machine is, we are really not going to know what's real and what's not. And that's scary to me.
Well, that's great to know. But you see, here's the problem. In a world of 30 million Venezuelans, there's always going to be a few that are going to celebrate this. And we are not here to celebrate Maduro. Make no mistake. No. It is not our effing business to run other countries, to steal their resources, and to govern them according to our whim. And on top of everything else, myofascial healing Pilates. Wonder if this person goes to your place in Plantation. You never know.
I don't know. Yeah, honestly, this is another place, and I've talked about this many times before about Venezuela, where it is very much class-oriented.
Correct.
The wealthy white Venezuelans that take up a huge amount of Weston, Florida, in my former congressional
and West Pembroke Pines.
Yes, those people are anti-Maduro, and so they absolutely support the what do you call it? Why am I losing the opposition? And that is true, but it is along class lines, make no mistake. So this is completely fake. We'll finish it, but we're also going to show you a video of real Venezuelan responses to what we did.
Correct.
Let me be clear that Venezuela's election, where their leader Maduro was elected, was considered to be more fair of an election than our electoral process in this country, according to international election monitors and Jimmy Carter Foundation and all that stuff, right? So they have way more functioning and robust, fair electoral process. That was their democratically elected person, which means the majority of people in Venezuela support Maduro and the small opposition. And yeah, I know there are people there that are with them. There's not just 2 or 3. I mean, they've got some people, but that's a minority. And all of them combined don't want to have us in there.
You know, the other aspect that doesn't get talked about enough, that seems to get ignored by everybody, is the fact that we sanction the shit out of Venezuela. We make it damn near impossible for their economy to function. But the good news is that too many nations, including those that are buried in all different types of sanctions, are too hip to what we're doing now and why we're doing it. That's it. This is pretty clear cut. This is not a complicated situation here. The United States is in big trouble economically. And this is a prime example, but probably as big as anything we've ever seen. And why is it that we're in such trouble? Why is it that this country is having such a problem? Because billionaire, mostly Zionist oligarchs don't want to pay taxes, want to rule over us like kings and queens, knights of the round table. And who the hell is going to stop them? And this has been going on for decades. You didn't think for a second that at some point it might come and bite us in the ass? With all due respect to even friends of the show who have this theory about modern monetary theory, here's what we know for absolute certainty. Modern monetary theory is real in the sense that we print money from the Federal Reserve and then we get taxed back. But in terms of just being able to spend money freely and not have it attached to anything of substantive value other than the United States will always pay their bills, how's that going to work now when what we're basically doing is the last remnants of the empire, which is we have one nation in the Western Hemisphere that is flushed with crude oil supply. And that, of course, is Venezuela. So what's the rest of the world going to do now? What's Brazil going to do? What's Russia going to do? China, South Africa, India. What are they going to do? And what are these other nations that have any type of resources going to do? You think they're going to trade with us anymore? No. Why would they? They're going to trade. The second that they can jump ship and go to China and do business with them, that's what's going to happen. And that's why China never reacts militarily, because they know that they don't have to. They know that we are inevitably the nation that is going to become the pariah of the entire world if we're not already. Who the fuck would want to do business with us when they could do business with a country that everyone knows all they care about is economic advancement? Yes, China's going to see a setback ever so briefly because of the population bubble that they're dealing with. But the system that they have in place, regardless of whether it's communist or not, is working better on the global stage than ours is. Anyone who wants to argue with me on that front, I fucking dare you to try. But it's obvious what's happening here.
We're losing. We're losing. And all we have is military might. That's it. That's all we have. And a dollar based on nothing. And they're going to try to sell this AI bubble and ride it. But at the end of the day, it's a house of cards. It's a house of cards. It's nothing. And I honestly, I'm hoping, like, I almost feel like I want to send out SOS signals to China and be like, please save us from ourselves.
I mean, that kind of sums it up in a nutshell in many ways.
I guess that's, it's not wrong.
Now let's show what a real reaction.
Yes, this is how Venezuelans, the people, again, the majority of people in Venezuela that are upset, it's because they voted for Maduro. They're chavistas.
No son tiempo para dar dudar es traición y levantar el imperio norteamericano que nunca nos imaginamos que se atrevería tanto, porque aquí en Venezuela solamente estamos construyendo soberanía.
Let's also point something out here, which also is an example of why people are done with our country.
Yeah.
When you come out and say that this was a fantastic military operation where no one was killed, there are at least 80 that we know of Venezuelans that have already been killed. So the U.S., once again, acting just like Israel does when it comes to Palestinians. Well, none of our people got killed. The rest of them, they're all savages anyway, so let's just kill them. I mean, they're commies after all. You know, I love when people talk about Venezuela and call it communist. There is really, really something to how bad our education system is in this country. And what makes it even worse is how absolutely sure people are when they talk about Venezuela that they understand how this country operates. Yes. Is there corruption in Venezuela? Abso-fucking-lutely there is. Do I believe that that is what happens when a nation gets bombarded by the most powerful nation in its hemisphere because they don't want to do business with them? On top of everything else, Venezuela, as far as I know, is the one nation in the entire Western Hemisphere that doesn't have a Rothschild-controlled bank within their country.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's a total coincidence.
Right.
And don't pay any no mind to that one. And when you have the largest crude oil supply in the world, equivalent to 17 trillion with a T, 303 billion barrels worth of crude oil, worth $17 trillion. Considering how fast we spend money in this country, maybe we can make it last for a decade. But as you've been saying, the U.S., if it's lucky, has a decade left in a position of absolute power. But it's going to end.
Yeah.
It's just obvious.
Paz, en felicidad con nuestro presidente Nicolás Maduro, y así como está sucediendo en Venezuela, hacemos un llamado a los pueblos hermanos del mundo que despierten, porque la injerencia del pueblo norteamericano no respeta fronteras, no respeta país, no respeta derechos.
Gringos de mierda, no van a pasar, no vencerán. El pueblo bolivariano está rodilla en tierra, defendiendo su dignidad, su identidad y su tierra.
Lo mismo.
Yeah, see, they're not happy. They're not happy. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, not only are they not happy, but this is in many ways a reflection of two very clear-cut distinctions in the Western/Southern Hemisphere. You have our governance and how we do business. And then you also have the governance of Argentina under Javier Milei. But then you look at Claudia Sheinbaum, Jewish, anti-Zionist president of Mexico.
So Jay Boss is saying, are the Venezuelans defending Maduro leftists? This is important to know. It isn't, though, for a couple of reasons why it's not important. One, again, he was elected by a majority in a fair election. So that's who was elected. It doesn't really matter who does and doesn't support him. And the other thing is, the bigger issue isn't whether or not they like or don't like Maduro. The bigger issue is, why is it any of our business? And why are we there arresting a leader of a sovereign nation and kidnapping him and bringing him to our country to try him as a narco-terrorist when our president just pardoned the former president of Honduras, who's like the world's biggest narco-terrorist?
You're not supposed to talk about that. That didn't happen.
Well, what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter whether these are leftists or not that are saying this. It's irrelevant. He was elected to be the president of that country in a fair election.
Mm-hmm. You know, the problem that I think a lot of people still don't understand is that if the poors want to elect somebody that doesn't jive with free market capitalism, that's what a democracy is supposed to be about. But you see, guys, there's no such thing. It's what the rich and powerful want, and then the plebs can pretend that they're fighting amongst themselves.
And this is exactly the point, what Ray Mayo is saying. I hate my leader, but if America invades, I will stand with my country against Trump. Of course. And what we're actually doing is we're bringing a lot of people and different factions in Venezuela together against the fucking Yankees, as that lady said.
Of course. This is, again, just an example of it's not even free market. Again, I got to say, you're right. It's not free market. It's global vulture capitalism of the worst kind. And there is no greater in the immediate time, in the immediacy of this moment, there is no greater haul of rich natural resource than the crude oil supply that is under Venezuela's soil. There's plenty of other examples out there. We pointed this out a few years back when everything got started in Ukraine. It's all about natural resources. Western Ukraine is flushed with trillions upon trillions of resources from cobalt, wheat. I believe they have lithium as well. And we want to get them into NATO so we can control it. And Russia don't want any part of that shit because they trade with them. And we all know that the U.S. empire thrives and survives when it creates an enemy. That's why they had to prop up the Soviet Union. That's why they propped up China. It's how it always works. How else could you possibly justify $1 trillion a year military defense budget? And that's not even accounting for the fact that we have 800 military bases around the world that we know of on paper. How many military bases does China have? I believe it's 15. How many military bases does Russia have? I believe it's 8.
Yeah, it's
you
something.
can't see the problem here?
Well, and the bigger point about those is, as far as I know, and somebody tell me if I'm wrong, China, any bases that are China and Russia bases are not in places where they've been asked to leave and just don't.
Correct.
They're in places where they're invited to be. See, we have bases in places where they've asked us to leave, like Syria, and we just said no.
Well, excuse me, it's called the Donroe Doctrine now. Have you not heard the new name change? It's Donroe Doctrine. It's really great. We're going to totally take over the whole West. We're the West. We're the best.
Que hoy están haciendo con Nicolás Maduro y Cilia Flores, lo pueden hacer con cualquiera, lo pueden hacer con cualquier país de Latinoamérica, del mundo, por el simple hecho de que si quieren robar sus recursos, el objetivo en Venezuela no es la libertad, el objetivo es el petróleo venezolano.
See, the people in Venezuela understand what's happening. They understand. And a lot of them are armed.
Oh, yeah.
But this isn't going to be a typical, I've said it multiple times. This isn't going to be a typical quote unquote boots on the ground operation in Venezuela. It's going to be done much more through proxies and different factions and insurgent groups. But at the end of the day, they just removed a democratically elected person in a country where the majority of people like said person. And now we're going to try to control that. So it's not going to go well. And they're already screwing over Marina Pachata, whatever her name is. It doesn't matter. Like I said a long time ago about her, Maria Enchilada. Don't name the food. Okay? Don't name the food. Guaido too, whatever. Because she is just as dumb as Zelensky. Because anybody that thinks that somehow coordinating and getting into bed with U.S. empire will somehow benefit you politically, you are just so out of your element.